Welcome to our webinar. This session will introduce and provide an overview of the Special Education Parent Advisory Groups in New Jersey Guide to Developing and Conducting an Effective SEPAG. This guide was developed by the START project in partnership with the New Jersey Department of Education, Office of Special Education Professional Development, and the Office of Special Education Policy and Procedure, along with the statewide Parent Advocacy Network Incorporated. We are hoping that you will receive a good overview of the purpose and intent of the guide during this webinar. This guide was developed with the help of hundreds of parents, community leaders, and district staff whose input, guidance, and feedback are reflected in this guide. The input was collected through forums, online surveys, and direct interviews to present best practices in the development and ongoing coordination of SEPAGs in New Jersey. The very teamwork and collaboration that are at the core of IDEA are also at the core of Special Education Parent Advisory Group process. Special Education Parent Advisory Groups, or SEPAGs, engage parents, community leaders, and school district staff and collaborative teamwork to improve education, not only for those with disabilities, but for all children. SEPAGs ensure that there is a forum for meaningful parent input to the school district with the opportunity for system-level change. The key to any successful partnership is meaningful collaboration and exchange of ideas. This guide was developed with this in mind and is intended to offer a roadmap for parents and professionals to help bring stakeholders together, to suggest strategies, to help stakeholders engage in dialogue, and offer best practices to help them work together to benefit the local community. The State Technical Assistance and Resource Team, or START project, offers programs and services that support the engagement of families to improve outcomes for students, including developing and supporting special education parent advisory and support groups in communities and school districts. So the START project helps parents to become informed and active participants in their child's education, helps to partner with educators in improving educational programs for students with disabilities, and particularly in the area of inclusion, and start and strengthen special education parent advisory groups or parent support groups in your area. Presenting today will be myself, Karen Antone, the START Project Director, along with parent group specialists Stephanie Babbitts and Debbie Esposito. We start with our content and introduction page. The introduction describes how the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, and how parent-educator collaboration are at the core of IDEA and the SEPAG process to improve education for all children. It emphasizes the partnership and collaboration are the keys to effectiveness, and that every SEPAG will look different based on the unique needs of the district and active participation in the group. This guide is intended to offer a roadmap to help bring stakeholders together and offer best practices to help them work together to benefit the local community. I'd like to introduce Stephanie Babbitts.
Thank you, Karen. The guide was set up to be parent-friendly, easy to follow, and with caption boxes, so readers can easily find the information they are seeking. Page 3 includes the New Jersey regulation requiring that every district have a SEPAG in place, and the notation that you will find throughout the document that collaboration and inclusion are essential to success. This page has the first mention of the SEPAG being parent-driven, as well as systemic challenges. We will go into more detail on these topics as we look further into the guide. On page 4, we begin with the purpose and function of a SEPAG, including membership and the importance of parent input. There is a focus on including parents with children in out-of-district placements and making SEPAGs as inclusive as possible. On page 5, we share some of the possible benefits of a SEPAG, as well as what a SEPAG is not. And I'd like to point out each of the key points in a SEPAG is not box. On page 6, why be involved in a SEPAG? By providing input on systemic issues, parents can work collaboratively with school leadership to improve programs and outcomes for children. At the end of each chapter, there is a takeaway section to summarize the information in the chapter. Debbie?
Thank you, Stephanie. Chapter 2, Parents as Advisors, highlights some of the benefits of a SEPAG. Here we have the best practices of the parent-driven process and emphasis of parent input. We also present important questions to ask to ensure an inclusive, collaborative process with a focus on systemic issues. Keywords here are respect, larger vision, shared goals, and the big picture. It is important to differentiate between individual and systemic issues. Included is a quote from a school district leader and the reminder that individual issues should be referred to the case manager or district chain of command. The quote reads, "Both parent and school professionals involved with the SEPAG need to drop their egos, fears, and agendas that don't go anywhere. It is not easy to do, and it takes time and patience on both sides. But when parent advisors bring well-organized insight and suggestions to me, we can work together as a team to set priorities and get results." Page 10 is an example of an individual issue uncovering a systemic issue and how that district and SEPAG were able to come to satisfactory resolution. Here we have another parent comment and Chapter 2 takeaways. Bullets highlight that SEPAG should be parent-driven and parent-led. They should provide avenues for parent input. They should address systemic issues. They also highlight the benefits of communication and mutual respect. And also, very important, solutions can be no cost to the district. Back to Karen.
With over 600 districts in New Jersey, each SEPAG is unique. Chapter 3 covers the basics of building an effective SEPAG. This slide is an introduction to Chapter 3, which will cover starting a group, resources, structure, building the group, and tips for best practices. Here we have our quick start guides for parents and districts. The live links will bring readers directly to the New Jersey Department of Education Office of Special Education Programs and START project websites. Here we go in depth for parents working with a district to start or increase the effectiveness of a group. Note the tools for change, best practice, and tips are included on this page. Continuation of the Quick Start Guide with more tips and bullet reminders to sum up building effective SEPAGs. Then we have a Quick Start checklist for SEPAGs, along with some strategies to build parent engagement. Then we end this chapter with a quote from a parent member, and then again summarization in the takeaways from the chapter. Stephanie?
Chapter 4, Collaboration and Partnerships. This emphasizes that best practices are parent-directed and parent-led, with support and partnership from the school district. Page 19 highlights how to initiate a partnership. On the parent side, notice parent-led meetings for open communication supported by the Director of Special Services, and quarterly meetings to share input from the meetings. From the district-initiated partnership, again, parent-directed organizing their own activities. And the comment in blue at the bottom reinforces parent-directed with district support. On page 20, we look at 5 tips for collaboration. This page is for parents as well as educators. Number 1, establishing ground rules. Number 2, listen without judgment. Number 3, tips to establish mutual trust and accountability. 4, viewing from different angles and perspectives to help facilitate a solution. And 5, don't forget to record and celebrate successes. It's all about improving outcomes for children with disabilities. On page 22, we look at ideas into action, reaching yes with the district leaders. The key here is share and inform, not threaten or complain. Remember to give feedback and offer thanks. On page 23, ideas for resolving conflict in a positive manner to strengthen the relationship, with the reminder to keep the interests of the children at the center of the discussion. Next, we look at roles and responsibilities of group members. And then on page 25 is a continuation of roles and responsibilities for the district leaders, as well as the chapter takeaways.
Chapter 5 defines input with some strategies to solicit and maximize input from parents. Page 27 lists some communication strategies to help promote the SEPAG. Here are some ideas for supporting diversity along with the Chapter 5 takeaways. Note the tools for change, reminding that there are resources available after the content of the guide.
Chapter 6, turning ideas into action. So what do we do with the input? Here we find some strategies and a quote from a school leader. Some possible topics for input are listed here. And strategies to assess the impact of the work of the SEPAG and how to make the case for change, what to include in the minutes, indicators of success, and follow-up information. And then again, we end the chapter with a summarization in the takeaways.
Chapter 7, strategies for running an effective meeting. Note again that parent-led meetings are mentioned. Other meetings might be parent and district meetings. Here are some ideas for organizing and running an effective meeting. If the meetings are not organized with an agenda and group rules, they will not be effective use of people's time. Page 34, information about agendas and minutes. Note here that every meeting should have an agenda. The back of this guide includes agenda templates. Reaching agreement and helping parents feel welcome, with a quote from a parent and a SEPAG member. And on page 36, ground rules for meetings, building an outreach list, and Chapter 7 takeaways. Debbie?
Thank you. Next, the guide provides strategies for strength and growth. Some organizational tools and meeting formats. Here we have outreach and more strategies to ensure good communication and that the diversity of the district is reflected in the SEPAG. We conclude Chapter 8 with more takeaways.
The next part of the guide includes a resource section with more information and live links. Here are the resources continued, and please note that we have Robert's Rule of Order and how to run cafe-style meetings, which facilitate open and intimate discussion and also include everyone in the group.
On page 42, we have tools for change. Here you will find sample mission statements. On page 43, what to include in the flyer. On page 44, some sample SEPAG bylaws. And on page 45, sample agenda and minutes. On page 46, tools for gathering input. Note that there is a column to check for individual or systemic issue. Sometimes an individual issue can uncover a larger systemic issue. So it is important to use the tools that will initiate the conversation. On page 47, we have the tools for workshop reflection and questions to ask after the meeting or a workshop. Karen?
Then the SEPAG guide ends with acknowledgments. We would like to acknowledge and thank the hundreds of parents, community leaders, and district staff whose input, guidance, and feedback are reflected in the guide. And we have here the people from SPAN that have helped with putting this guide together, and also from the New Jersey Department of Education. We'd like to mention that this project was funded 100% by New Jersey's federal special education grants to state under IDEA Part B funds. Here are the contacts for the statewide Parent Advocacy Network. And on the last slide, we have the contact for the SPAN START project. Please visit our website. You will find a copy of this webinar on the website, along with more tools and resources to start, run, and develop an effective special education parent advisory group. Thank you for attending the webinar.